Welcome to this explainer. If you've been following the headlines in Tamil Nadu since the May 2026 elections, well, you know the political landscape is shifting at absolute breakneck speed under C. Joseph Vijay's TVK party. But what is actually happening beneath the surface? Today, we're unpacking our source material to map out exactly how this new government is consolidating its power and why their strategy is triggering such fierce debate. Okay, let's jump right into our roadmap for today. 1. The illusion of momentum. 2. Inside the defection factory. 3. Allegations and pushback. And 4. The risks of recycled politics.
All right, starting things off with Section 1, the illusion of momentum. Our source highlights a really fascinating contrast right out of the gate. On one hand, you have TVK's carefully crafted optics, right? They're projecting this image of an organic, unstoppable mass movement that represents a completely clean break from the past. But beneath that sweeping wave is actually a very familiar brand of old politics operating behind closed doors. It's this massive tension between the shiny public image of sweeping change and the gritty reality of post-poll consolidation. And to keep this momentum going, TVK's messaging is just relentless. The narrative is basically, everyone is joining us, the Dravidian duopoly is finished. And they're backing this up digitally with their MyTVK app, pointing to massive signups to Project Scale. Meanwhile, over on the ground, you've got leaders like K.A. Singatayan and Alav Artuna essentially running a revolving door of new entrants at their Panier headquarters. The whole setup is designed to make joining the party feel completely inevitable.
Which brings us to Section 2, inside the defection factory.
You know, the catalyst for this entire strategy really boils down to just a single number, 108. See, despite their historic victory, TVK actually fell 10 seats short of the 118 they needed for a clear independent majority in the assembly. Because they couldn't govern alone, they were forced into a minority government. So to survive, they became completely reliant on outside support from the Congress, left parties, the VCK, and, really critically here, a rebel faction from the AIADMK.
If we look at the timeline, the sequence of events is incredibly rapid and highly coordinated. In mid-May, TVK barely secures its floor test, and that was thanks to around 25 AIADMK rebel MLAs defying their party whip. Fast forward to late May, and that quiet support hardens, with 4 to 5 of those AIADMK MLAs outright resigning to officially join TVK. And by early June, the trickle becomes an absolute flood. We're talking over 300 AIADMK members jumping ship in these highly organized mass events, all to stabilize TVK's minority government.
So our source makes it clear that this isn't just organic, grassroots enthusiasm. We are looking at the highly targeted absorption of high-value political assets. Defecting MLAs include heavyweights like Maragatham Kumaravel, P. Satyabama, S. Jayakumar, and Isaki Subia. On top of that, over 300 former ministers and district-level functionaries have crossed the aisle. It even includes these deep structural shifts among second and third generation AIMDK cadres in the vital Chennai suburbs. And let's be real, organizing that kind of shift requires serious political machinery.
So what is the actual endgame here? It's to target an already fractured AIADMK. By absorbing its most vital cadre, TVK completely demoralizes its main opposition. And at the exact same time, they're neatly padding their own numbers, completely fortifying their ground game for those looming local body elections and bypolls. It's a classic, hyper-effective dual-purpose strategy. Weaken your enemy while strengthening your own fortress.
Let's move to Section 3, allegations and pushback.
As you might expect, the pushback has been intense. The DMK has fiercely criticized the almost seamless nature of these realignments. In fact, DMK chief M.K. Stalin deployed this highly memorable piece of rhetoric, calling the whole situation horse trading at horse speed. By framing it that way, the opposition is directly implying that illicit, highly transactional politics are driving these shifts, which is obviously a direct hit on TVK's whole clean alternative image.
And the AIAMDK didn't just sit around complaining to the press, they took concrete administrative action. They petitioned the governor for immediate intervention and demanded a formal CBI probe. They raised some very heavy allegations regarding things like cash for tickets, promises of ministerial berths, and political shelter from future corruption probes. Though, keeping things balanced here, our source explicitly points out that concrete public evidence of these cash inducements remains unproven.
Ultimately, what we are witnessing is a textbook example of what's called political engineering. It's the incredibly calculated process of targeting your weakest rival, absorbing their cadre, and projecting such massive inevitability that you completely crush the morale of anyone left standing. It is a highly effective, deeply traditional tactic in Indian politics. But the glaring issue for TVK's critics is how sharply this cutthroat maneuvering contrasts with the party's original promise to be a pure anti-establishment force.
Finally, Section 4, Risks of Recycled Politics.
According to our source, building this massive defection factory fundamentally threatens TVK's credibility, and it happens in 3 distinct steps. Step 1 is ideological dilution. I mean, if you absorb the very Dravidian ecosystem you aggressively campaigned against, your loyalty suddenly looks purely transactional. Step 2 is internal contradictions. You have a party born from anti-establishment anger suddenly becoming a safe refuge for politically sidelined veterans. And Step 3, public perception ultimately takes a huge hit when endless, flashy, welcoming spectacles start replacing actual hard governance.
And speaking of hard governance, here is why this matters to everyday citizens right now. While the daily media cycle is totally consumed by the spectacle of these mass joinings, very real administrative tests are looming large. The state is facing growing concerns over declining law and order, highly complex Kaveri water disputes, stagnant job creation, and rising anxiety over public crime. Our source suggests this entire defection narrative acts as a massive distraction, effectively pulling the public's attention away from these absolutely critical real-world issues.
The source really emphasizes one crucial takeaway here. Tamil Nadu voters made history because they were seeking genuine change. They definitively rejected the old duopoly. But what they did not necessarily endorse was simply recycled politics wrapped up in shiny new packaging. True transformation requires doing the deeply unglamorous hard work of building a robust cadre from the ground up and delivering on promises transparently rather than just pointing to a scoreboard of how many defectors you've acquired.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to consider. As the political honeymoon phase inevitably ends and the actual realities of governance begin to impact everyday lives, how is history going to view this moment? Will the people ultimately judge TVK by the sheer size of its defection factory or by the actual substance and transparency of its leadership? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep asking the tough questions, and we'll see you next time.